In a dark, silent DSS cell in Abuja, Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the native people of Biafra, sits alone, worn but unbroken. Then, without warning, a letter arrives, no name, no stamp, just a wax seal marked with the rising sun of Burkina Faso. Inside, words that could spark a continent. It's from President Ibrahim Traoré, but what it says is not a plea, not a threat, but a statement. One that shakes the base of every African capital. If this letter leaks, partnerships fall apart, nations fall, and Africa may never be the same again. The question is, will truth finally free him or bury him forever? The lights never fully turn off in the DSS cell, where Nnamdi Kanu has spent years, just a dim, endless hum of light, as if even darkness has been forbidden. His beard is longer now, his eyes tired but unbroken. Every day, the same rhythm. Silence, metal, silence again, until today. There is no sound when it happens, a quiet slip beneath the food tray, a folded piece of paper, rough and unfamiliar. No stamp, just a seal, the rising sun symbol of Burkina Faso pressed into red wax. Kanu freezes, not out of fear, but recognition. He has studied symbols his whole life. This one belongs to Ibrahim Traoré. For a long moment, he does nothing. He holds the letter as if it might vanish like a dream at dawn. Ibrahim Traoré, the Burkinabe soldier turned rebel who fought against France, shut down foreign minds, and swore never to kneel to foreign rule shadows. What could he possibly want with a man locked in Nigeria's most secret prison? Kanu presses the letter to his chest before opening it. His fingers tremble, not from weakness but from something older, the ache of hope too long buried. In a nearby hallway, a DSS officer laughs at a phone video. A door creaks, the paper rustles, and then he begins to read. The first line doesn't greet him, it grips him. I write you not as a president, but as a brother who still believes Africa must finish the war our ancestors died fighting. Kanu's lips part, no sound, only breath. Outside the cell, the rain begins to fall over Abuja, quietly, defiantly, and inside, the fire that the Nigerian state tried put out starts again. The moment the guards turn the corner, their boots fading into the echo of the corridor, Nnamdi Kanu slides back into the shadowed part of his cell. He holds the letter like a fragile treasure, his fingers tracing the wax seal, a rising sun crowned by a broken chain. It isn't merely a state symbol, it's resistance carved into history. It's Sankara's ghost smiling in silence. He breaks it gently, no rush. The world has stolen years from him, but not his respect for meaning. The paper inside smells faintly of dust and handwritten ink, smudged at the edges. No title, no dates, just a first line that stops his breath. I write you not as a president, but as a brother in chains. Kanu closes his eyes. For a man buried by his own country, it's not the signature that matters, it's the recognition in that single sentence. Down the marble walls of office and stands shoulder to shoulder with him, two prisoners of empire. One with bars of steel, the other with bars of treaties and threats. The letter goes on, I have followed your journey long before I became what they now call head of state. I have watched as they silenced your voice, not because you were wrong, but because you refused to kneel. Kanu's heart drums harder, not from flattery, but from understanding. Few ever spoke to him like this. Not world leaders, not even his old comrades. Outside, a gust of wind shakes the old windows. Inside, the words fill the cell with something neither lies nor lie agents could kill. Ibrahim Traoré had written him not as a Nigerian, not as a rebel, but as an African, and for the first time in a long time, Kanu felt seen. I write you not as a leader, the letter begins again, but as the son of a country that has buried too many of its lions. Nnamdi Kanu leans closer to the fading ink, heart beating in rhythm with each word. Ibrahim Traoré's voice echoes through the page, measured, heavy with memory. They killed Sankara before I was born, but his blood stained our soil so deeply that even the rain still runs red. They said it was treason, said it was internal politics, but we know what it was, a bullet fired from the barrel of foreign rule revenge, pulled by hands too close to home. Traoré doesn't hide the backstabbing, he names it. I trained beside men who would later serve those who killed our future. They wore uniforms, saluted our flag. But every night they drank from French wells and whispered into foreign ears. When I rose, they did not call me brave, they called me reckless. They said I would bring the wrath of the West. The letter shifts, less political now, more personal. And yet, brother, what they fear most is not the bullet or the ballot. It's the dream they fear, the man who dreams freedom louder than they whisper obedience. That is what you have done. That is why they built a cage around your body, hoping it would silence your spirit. Kanu feels his hands shake, not from fear, but from the realization that his silence is being sent away. His chains had become part of a larger story. Traoré's words draw no sympathy, only fire. This is not about Biafra alone. It is about an Africa still haunted by the flags they lowered but never truly surrendered. Kanu sits back, the letter trembling in his hand. The chains rattle quietly, but tonight they don't sound like defeat. They sound like a warning. We are all in a bigger prison. The letter continues, the ink now slightly darker, as if Traoré pressed harder on these lines. Yours has walls, mine has microphones, but both were built by the same builders, the ones who drew our borders with blood and handed us flags soaked in silence. Kanu's eyes narrow. The words don't flatter, they blame. Do you know why they fear us, Nnamdi? The letter asks. Because we didn't beg for permission to dream. Because we speak of maps that don't yet exist, of unity that terrifies the controllers in Paris and DC. They give us loans, then call them partnerships. They send soldiers, then call it peacekeeping. But it's the same foreign rule, just renamed in French and English suits. Traoré's tone sharpens. Echoes are not a shield, it's a leash. I sat in those rooms, heard them mock the people's cries as emotional noise. They dare call you a threat while they sign your country's future away at round tables in Brussels. Then, without warning, the letter softens, not in message but in heart. And yet through all of this, you never broke. They starved you, erased your name from headlines, tried to recast you as a villain in your own land. But your silence roared louder than any president's speech. In your silence, the youth found direction. In your pain, they found purpose. Kanu exhales slowly. He remembers the interrogations, the planned delays in court, the newspapers printing lies as if he were already dead. But here now, every injustice is being relit like a lantern in the dark. Traoré closes this portion with one line that feels like thunder whispered through paper. You are not a prisoner. You are the alarm clock they hoped would never ring. And suddenly, Kanu realizes it's already ringing. The map they drew was our cage. Traoré's letter continues, each word planned like a match striking dry earth. They didn't divide land, they divided memory. They made us forget who we were before borders. Kanu blinks slowly. That line pierces deeper than most. I have studied Biafra. Traoré writes, not through the eyes of your enemies, but through the eyes of your people. Mothers who buried sons without names, elders who still speak of a sun that rose before Nigeria. They called it a rebellion. But I see it as a reminder, a crack that exposed the cracks in a false union. Kanu's throat tightens. No one in office ever called Biafra anything but a forbidden topic. But I must tell you this, brother, the letter goes on. Biafra is not alone. In every corner of Africa, there is a Biafra. In Mali, in the Congo, in the whispers of Khoisan elders and the silence of the Nubian sands. What they call unity was stitched with stolen threads. Traoré pauses in tone, then pivots, not toward the past, but toward the future. Your struggle must not end in a flag, he writes. It must become a fire, not to divide, but to awaken. You have been made into a symbol of division. I say become a symbol of rebirth, not just for Biafra, but for every forgotten tongue, every erased identity. Kanu grips the page tightly now. His vision blurs, not from age, but emotion. Do not wait for them to open the door. The letter ends. Break it down for the ones still waiting to speak their true name. The light flickers above, the chains remain. But Kanu feels something shift within, not just for Biafra, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa. Before the lines were drawn, your freedom is ours. The next page begins. The ink has grown bolder, as if Traoré's determination sharpened with every word. It is one none of us are free, not truly. Kanu holds the letter tighter, his pulse quickening. I have already sent word. The letter says, your family will be protected should they wish it. Burkina Faso will receive them, not as refugees, but as honored guests. Our soil has seen enough exiles. It now welcomes the families of those who resist. Kanu blinks back, a sudden heat in his eyes. He had not thought of his mother in weeks, not dared to wonder if she still prayed for him at dawn. Then the letter shifts. There are things I cannot say aloud yet, not in front of cameras, not at ECOWAS meetings where vultures wear suits. But understand this, we are moving, Traoré details quiet conversations whispered across secret-coded channels, face-to-face, under the radar. Leaders in Mali, Guinea, Niger, all listening, all furious. We are preparing a joint legal motion to the African Union, one that demands your immediate and complete release on the grounds of illegal detention, political holding down, and Pan-African human rights rule-breaking. Kanu's eyes widen. No Nigerian lawyer had ever gotten that close. But here, from across the Sahel, revolution wore uniform boots and carried truth instead of weapons. If they reject it, Traoré writes, we go public. We let the world see who they've caged and why. The final lines feel like thunder. Again, if they do not open the gate for you, we will break the gate for all of us. Kanu exhales slowly, the sound of a man who dares to believe again. Burkina Faso was no longer distant. It was already in the fight. If they touch you again, the final page begins. We will no longer speak in whispers. Nnamdi Kanu pauses, his breath is still. The words now carry not just support, but something heavier, a warning cloaked in thunder. Let them hear me clearly, Traoré writes. If your blood is spilled in that cell, if even a shadow of harm befalls you again, Burkina Faso will respond. And not with words, not with blame. We will consider it an act of war, not against Nigeria alone, but against the foreign rule controllers who still pull your nation strings. Kanu's hands grip the paper. It trembles not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what this means. No African leader had ever drawn a line like this, not for him. They will call me reckless. They will say, I overstepped. But what is carelessness if not watching a brother rot while we raise empty sayings? Traoré does not threaten out of pride. The tone is deeper, defiant, final. I will not let another African truth be buried beneath Western silence. We buried Sankara once. We will not bury another. That sentence hits like a hammer. It is no longer a letter, it is a shield. The final lines come without ceremony. I do not sign this as president, I sign it as Ibrahim, your brother, your comrade, your equal in struggle. And I make you a promise, the wind is changing. When they open your door again, it will not be to isolate you, it will be to answer to you. There is no signature stamp, no symbol, only a final handwritten line. We will not bury another Sankara. Kanu folds the letter carefully, eyes full, lips unmoving. But deep within the cold walls of the DSS prison, something ancient begins to stir. The letter never should have left Kanu's cell, but by dawn, a copy surfaces scanned, secret-coded, and quietly flagged by an intelligence officer at DSS headquarters. He doesn't know what he's reading at first. Then he sees the seal, the words, the final line, we will not bury another Sankara. Within hours, a red alert hits the presidential villa. Inside Aso Rock, President Tinubu reads the copy twice. By the third time, his hands are shaking, not with fear, but fury. This is a statement. He hisses a foreign threat disguised as brotherhood. An emergency meeting is called. Ministers rush in half-dressed, some still clutching phones. The National Security Advisor slams the document on the table. Burkina Faso has officially crossed the line. But not everyone agrees. He's not threatening Nigeria, one general says cautiously. He's threatening the system that made this prison possible. Tinubu glares. Same thing. Meanwhile, word spreads through back channels. Western embassies go silent, then active. By midnight, 2 private jets land quietly at Nnamdi Kanu Airport. On board, intelligence agents from France and the US, cases locked, faces grim. One American whispers to Tinubu's aide, this cannot leak. If it does, Traoré becomes a Mandela. But inside the Nigerian military, rumblings grow. A colonel in Kaduna says, if that letter reaches the people, Nigeria won't burn, it'll awaken. Others, already disappointed by ECOWAS's failures, begin quietly discussing what once felt unthinkable, Kanu's release. By morning, the letter is no longer just paper. It's a bomb ticking between loyalty and truth, silence and fire. One DSS officer, looking at the original page again, mutters under his breath, he didn't write that letter to be read in private. And somewhere in Abuja, a flash drive slips into an unmarked envelope marked only with a falcon in flight. At exactly 2:17 a.m., a file appears on a spread-out forum frequented by African student protesters. The username is Anonymous Freedom Falcon, and the title is simple, The Letter They Fear. Within minutes, it's spreading like wildfire. The full letter from Ibrahim Traoré to Nnamdi Kanu, word for word, no cuts, no edits, just truth, raw, defiant, and free. By dawn, it's copied across secret-coded Telegram groups, Pan-African networks, and even TikTok accounts in Senegal, Ghana, and Kenya. The quotes are everywhere. "We will not bury another Sankara. Your silence roared louder than any president's speech. We are all in a bigger prison." Lagos erupts first at the University of Lagos. Thousands gather with candles, wearing shirts with Kanu's face beside Traoré. A young woman speaks into a speaker. "We were taught to stay silent, but this letter taught us we are the sound they fear." In Abuja, students march, Independence Square chanting in rhythm. Kanu is not alone. Africa is not asleep. In Kinshasa, a street painting appears overnight. Kanu and Traoré back to back, breaking chains shaped like the African Union symbol. Back in Abuja, the Nigerian government scrambles to suppress the leak. Social media slowing down begins, VPN usage spikes, but it's too late. The internet has no borders, and neither does belief. Inside Aso Rock, Tinubu stares at a screen flashing with images of African youth on the move. "Find who leaked it," he barks, but no one speaks because deep down they all know something has shifted. Not just a document, a story. The chains weren't broken. Not yet. But the keys have been found and passed from cell to street, from silence to roar. The cell hasn't changed. The walls are still gray, the chains still cold. But Nnamdi Kanu sits upright now, the letter folded carefully beneath his mattress like a sacred scroll. The noise outside has reached even these concrete walls. Guards whispering, radios buzzing with headlines from Al Jazeera and TV5. Traoré's letter starts a Pan-African waking up. He doesn't speak, but for the first time in years, he smiles. In Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré stands before the African Union. The hall is tense, diplomats stiff with discomfort, but his voice is steady. They say, "I crossed a line," he declares. But what is a border when our chains are the same? The prison of one is the prison of all. If Kanu remains caged, then Africa is not free. It is pretending. Gasps ripple. Some representatives walk out, but others stay, eyes hard, hearts turning. In Abuja, a storm brews quietly, and then it breaks. Senator Duramola, once a strong supporter of Tinubu, takes the Senate floor and stuns the chamber. If we are truly democratic, then why are we afraid of a man whose only weapon was his voice? I call for the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu. Noise, applause from young aides, shock from the old guard. Back on the streets, the slogan intensifies. One Africa, one voice, one freedom. But in the silence of the cell, Kanu hears none of it, just the sound of hope returning to its rightful place, not as noise, but as fuel. Because he knows now, whether they open the gates or not, the storm has already passed, and what comes next is fire. The question is no longer if Africa will rise, it's who will try and fail to stop it. Like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more.